Hey guys, today's episode is with Sarah Harvey. Um, I've just recorded it. It is honestly one of the most powerful episodes I've done. I know I kind of maybe always say that, but the story she's been through, from being homeless as a 15-year-old, trauma she went through to being bedbound, just sick for years, and then now being completely healed, running a successful business, living in Bali. So obviously connect with that. Such an amazing, inspiring story. She's doing great things in the world right now. I could have spoken to her for hours. So yeah, really enjoyed recording this one. I enjoy recording all of them. I got a lot from it personally, so I hope you guys did too. Whatever platform you're listening to this on, whether it's YouTube, please give it a like and subscribe. And if on any other platform, if you could do something similar. Just trying to reach more people, nothing else other than that. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this. Let's get into the episode. Thank you. Welcome to another episode of the Chronic Comeback podcast. Today, I'm really happy and excited to have someone on my time zone. How are you doing today?
I am doing really, really well. I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. And yeah, I got back to Bali 2 days ago, and I thought that the rain would be like done, and it's still raining. Has it been bad in the last like 6 weeks, or has it started to get better?
No, it's definitely starting to get better, but a day or two of rain here and there, I actually enjoy it because I get all cozy with a cup of tea and it reminds me of
Yeah,
home.
yeah. I do enjoy it. I enjoy it when I'm working, and then when I'm not working, I would prefer it to be sunny. Both of us from the UK, so yeah, we both escaped the grey and the cold of the UK. Well, if we could go back to the beginning, or before the beginning of this story, and could you just give us some detail on what life was like before you had any sort of symptoms, any sort of like, I guess the intensity of what you went through. Like, did you have a childhood that was healthy, or looking back on it, did you realize, were there signposts that things weren't quite right? If you could give us some detail on that, and then take us in to the beginning of your story.
Yeah. So I left home when I was 15, and home was not a safe place for me. And that took a lot of strength and courage to make that decision. And very soon afterwards, symptoms showed in my body because I was in the root chakra, fight, flight, survival, but for real, I was 15. I had nothing. Um, the symptoms started getting louder and then moving towards diagnosis, 17, 18, 19, 20. And in all of that time, I was searching and what's wrong, and the doctors don't understand, and the autoimmune and the diagnosis is kept getting more and more. Fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, if some of you are interested, irritable bowel syndrome, endo, POTS, and all the ones that wouldn't get diagnosed, but I knew that I had, but I didn't have access to those specialists, like Lyme, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah,
There wasn't a time in my adulthood where, until now that I'm healed, where I can remember being like chronic symptom free. So it was just all of my teenage years into my 20s chronically sick. However, my story is a little bit different to others because I didn't become fully bedbound until 2019. So I spent many years traveling the world and teaching English abroad as a means to do that, while heavily medicated, crying most nights, getting drunk on the weekends and going on boat trips and getting high and all of that. So my life on the outside, like, well, she's traveling, she can't be that chronic, which invalidated me further and further because actually I'm really in pain. Fibromyalgia has over 200 symptoms. I'm really struggling, but I can't go home. I'm not welcome at home. And the traveling really was a trauma response,
mm,
right? In 2019, my body said, no, no more. And I had a very caring partner who was, we became in a sort of parent-child dynamic, a caretaker and me, the sick person dynamic. And while I'm so grateful for his love, so grateful for that time together and a year where I could just be in bed. And I mean, really, like I got up to shower once a week, maybe if I could. I was just in bed all the time, maybe a 10-minute walk once a week. But now looking back, I realized I needed that year because I was my nervous system was shot. I was gone. I was done. And so in 2020, I got to a point where I said, I need to start to live or I'm going to die. It's that serious. So I left the safety of our home and family that me and him were making. I went back to the UK to face some of my trauma there. I began my serious conscious healing journey. And I really, looking back, believe that in that 6-month period, that's where the healing happened, although I was healing all along. But that's where it was like, right, here we go. We're doing it now. Everything I've been reading, everything I've been listening, everything I've been learning in my travels abroad, all the learnings in India, all the philosophy, all the yoga, now we're doing it. And we had to break up because that dynamic didn't exist anymore, because there was no one to caretake anymore, because I was healed and I didn't need that safety little sort of controlling little like dynamic that we created together. I became too big. I became too much. And that is the story of most of my clients, that we have to let go of a lot. We have to let go of the old life completely. My life now is not my life when I was sick at all. And while I live abroad in Bali, I'm not running anymore. I've created home. We patched up and healed the relationship with my parents, which is not available for everybody, but I managed to get there. It took a lot of work, and they haven't changed necessarily. I've changed. And that is the story in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations on summarizing that in such a succinct way. That was like unbelievable. Like when people ask me my story, I ramble on for a very long time. But with that has come a lot of questions. So if you don't mind, like at the beginning, so when you left home and then you started experiencing symptoms, because I think this is the bit where the trauma, I guess the health trauma, I know you've had trauma before that, but like health trauma like really begins because it's so foreign to someone who's going through that. And I'm saying that from my own story, and it's so scary because I don't know about you, but I went through this. You get sick and you get better. That's just what happens. And then when you don't get better, it's like really traumatizing. And then you go and see a lot of doctors and you go through that merry-go-round. What was happening at that point? You left home, you got symptoms. What kind of symptoms were they? What doctors were you seeing? Because obviously I'm from the U. Was this in the UK as well? Were you seeing doctors on the NHS?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was that process like? Because I know for me it was pretty terrible.
Yeah, it was awful. And it was me looking to them as authority figures, me looking to them almost as, in Bali, we would say the masculine energy, the father archetype, like, help me, like, can't, like, do something, like, you're the one who knows. It started with pain in my glutes and hips and legs. Now I'm a body mind expert. I can see the connection with the legs, and I won't go too much into all of that because we'll be here for hours, but I was scared of moving forward with my life, and it was showing up all in my legs and my hips. And I had a lot of survival, energy going on, that my hips, low libido, all of that just closed up because I wasn't feeling safe. So that eventually transpired into fibromyalgia, because then the pain became all over my body, and then the chronic fatigue, and then the irritable bowel syndrome. And all along the way, it was very much like, yeah, I mean, you have this diagnosis, like, this is what it is. Like, it's not uncommon. It wasn't even shocking to the doctors anymore. It was just like, yeah, I mean, it's not arthritis, it's not cancer, it's not this. It's this totally incurable, chronic symptom that we don't really know about. But then here's the thing, I don't blame them entirely. And I've done a lot of healing around healing my trauma of the medical institution, what I call the chronic illness industry. Because here's the thing, there were little, seeds attempted to be planted along the way by doctors of like, look, your lifestyle, do you want to quit smoking? What about this? What about that? Have you tried yoga? And I'd be like, yoga? Now I'm a yoga therapist, right? Yoga? You think I need yoga? You think I need yoga? Now, here's the thing. I didn't want them to suggest things. I wanted them to save me, because my inner child was still in pain in my childhood home, lost somewhere under the bed, crying, like, save me. But I didn't have any conscious awareness of any of that. So I was looking to them. Also, I wanted them to validate to me, what's wrong with me? Why didn't my parents love me? What's wrong with me? Not even what's the diagnosis, but what's wrong? Why is my body not functioning the way that it's supposed to? There's something wrong with me as a human, as a woman, as a person. And of course, then if they say nothing's wrong with you, I would lose it. They'd say, your bloods are perfect. Your tests are perfect. I'd say, are you fucking kidding me? And I'd be like kicked out of the doctor's office. I'm sorry for swearing. I'd be kicked out of the office
There's a lot of
sometimes.
swearing on this, so it's all good.
Yeah, it was just me wrestling and fighting and battling with the medicine that the universe was trying to give me, which is like, you are your own healer, but I wouldn't accept it at the time.
But that's like a really, we grew up in the same country, so, and it's taken me a very, very, very long time to not want something external to heal me, whether that be a pill, whether that be some kind of weird and wonderful treatment, or a person. And it's taken me, and still I still kind of battle with it a little bit, but not nowhere near as much as that time. And it was just pure desperation. Like, I would go and see a doctor, but I would know, I don't know about you, I'd be on the way to the doctor knowing that I would get that, that look when they give you just like, and you just know that they're not going to help you. But I was just so desperate.
Yes.
Yeah. At that time, you mentioned trauma. When did you start to learn about trauma and that to have an impact on your health? Like, at what point in your journey did you hear about that?
I would say it was around, so 2016, 2017, I opened up to yoga, and not just the stretching. I went to India and I really learned about Ayurveda and philosophy. That's where the seed was planted that you can heal yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So then trauma came into it by finding Louise Hay and her teachings, although she doesn't really use the word trauma, but she talks about everything we learn and everything we absorb as children and manifest physically in the body. And to me, that just made perfect sense. So then the work began on forgiveness. But then when we move too quickly into forgiveness, we can gaslight ourselves and the very valid pain that is showing up in our body. So I then went into like, no, I've got a lot of work to do here in seeing them as inner children, seeing myself, and really grieving and processing the anger that I had, the how could you, like, for me, when I hear fibromyalgia, I hear like, how could you like look like, see me, I'm in pain, why can't you see me? But fibromyalgia is invisible, and so is so many of the other symptoms. And so we're yearning to be seen, and we're still not being seen, not by doctors sometimes as well. So that's where, but then talk therapy fails a lot of us. It certainly failed me when I was 15, 16, 17. The government, the first thing schools and colleges do, they're like, we got this homeless girl, let's stick her in therapy. But the therapist was like a college student who didn't really know anything and would ask me over and over, like, so how did that make you feel? And I'd say, well, it made me feel like shit, but we weren't getting anywhere because I was just angry. It was just another place for me to be angry, but I wasn't processing that anger.
Yeah.
And that's where somatic work, emotional processing, inner child work, reparenting myself. I had to become the parent to myself. And that wasn't taught in school or in the doctor's office or in talk therapy.
What year did you, just so I can connect the timeline, what year did you leave home?
I can't remember the year, but I was 15 and I'm 30 now. So 15 years ago.
Okay. And do you, I mean, feel free to say no if you don't want to talk about it. Do you mind talking about like why you left home and like what was
Sure.
going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was, my mum had remarried and my stepfather, and they went on to have 2 children. And there were all these rules that, for example, I couldn't talk at the dinner table. I couldn't join family movie night. I wasn't allowed certain things, like he would come home with toys or gifts for the other 2, not for me. So for me, that's not trauma at the time. That's not trauma. But then came emotional abuse, threatening me with a fist, but never actually doing it. So because if he actually did it, I could get help. So I was stuck because I was learning that if you're not hit, it's not abuse. So sometimes I tried to be bad enough to get him to do that, but he knew what I was doing. And so he took dinner away or took time away from me and my mum, didn't allow her to spend time with me. And this developed a lot of internalized beliefs in my inner framework that I am just inherently bad. I don't belong. I'm not worthy. And then as punishment, sometimes I was made to go to my dad's house, and I love my dad. He passed away in January this year, and I miss him a lot, but he had his own issues and problems, and being sent to his as punishment wasn't good for me because my other sisters lived with my dad, my sisters from my mum's first marriage with my dad. So at my dad's house, I didn't belong. And they took dinner away from me, and they took my pocket money when no one was looking, and they tormented me because I was the one who got to live with mum. And there was pain. They were experiencing a lot of pain. So just kept going back and forth between these two homes, neither in which I felt safe, until I said, I'm going to have to, like, mum, like, me or him, like, we've got to make a decision, like, you need to make a decision now. And I had my little bag packed. And she said, I'm married, Sarah. It doesn't work like that. Like, he's my husband. And I was like, okay, I'm going. And we were estranged for a long time, no contact.
Wow. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. That's rough. So I haven't actually told the audience this, but I've just come back from a psilocybin mushroom retreat. And it was like a week long, and the amount of trauma in that room, of people going through, I don't want to say similar things, because it's, it's all relative to what your story, but like going through like a lot of really tough things in their childhood. But these are people in their like 60s, and they haven't dealt with it their whole lives. There's like quite a few people older, and they're trying to unpick all this stuff now. And they're only realizing now that how damaging all of that stuff was in their like formative years. And so I guess it's, at least for you, the fact that you were able to work on that stuff so young is just like a huge positive. Because I don't know people that you work with now. And sorry, I know I'm going a bit off track, but some of the people you work with now, I imagine, do you ever get people who are quite a bit older and like haven't been able to work on those things at the age that you did?
Most of my clients are in their 20s and 30s, and then there's a few 40s and 50s, but most are around my age. And the clientele I bring in now are using these words like inner child and somatic processing, and the grief is showing up in my throat chakra. And, so we're all kind of on the same page in that respect. I don't take on, really, especially my group coaching programs, like people who are completely new, because they might be triggered by what I have to say. Like when I say that we chose this life, that I chose my parents, that's a hard concept for a lot of people.
Well, it's funny. So one of the key themes that was coming up for me in each of my like mushroom journeys, and I did 3, and one of them was incredibly challenging, but was like accountability, and that I am responsible for everything that happens to me in some way. And that can be such a weird thing that I wasn't expected to come up like consistently. But each time I like realized it was such a freeing thought and a freeing feeling to actually take accountability and responsibility for like where I'm at with like certain things. So yeah, whilst maybe that's not exactly what you're saying, that's kind of what, I realized.
Oh yeah, no, I'm saying it. Yeah.
Okay.
Accountability without self-blame and judgment and criticism.
Yes.
I created this because I have patterns of behavior and adaptations that are also biological in my body. I pull in the very thing, seems like it's unlucky, seems like it's just fate, or it's just a coincidence, but it's not. It's us. What's the common denominator in all the things? Us.
Yeah. No, definitely. Sorry, I'm going completely off track here.
Let's bring it back.
It's just really, because I'm not like, you talk about, I think some of the stuff you mentioned, like chakras and stuff like that, like I'm I'm very much like, if you speak to like my friends from back home, they won't even know what chakra is. They, that's
Right.
like, it's so far. And I guess at times, like I find it difficult to like connect with that. I can connect
Yeah.
with it on an intellectual level, like I get it, but like from a feeling point of view, and
Yeah.
that's something else I realized. Like, there's like almost like a defense mechanism that I've built up over the years that protect me from like actually like feeling things.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going into my story now. I'm like overtaking your
No,
podcast.
it's great. Reviving.
Um, so going back into your story, so you left home. Where did you go? Like 15, 16, where did you actually go?
First, I just went to different friends' houses and I never told them what was happening. And it was just like, I'll hop over to Chloe's for 1 or 2 nights and then Sophie's for 1 or 2 nights and, get fed and stuff and showered. And I kept my school clothes with me. And then I asked my eldest sister, and we're estranged now. But at the time, I asked her and I said, this is what's happening. And I think it's abuse and I need somewhere to stay. And she said yes, but her mental and physical health was not good. And what I look back on now, I feel was a lot more trauma added to the trauma already. I helped raise her children while she was drunk or out or on the sofa in just like total collapse. And raising small children while I was young and sick, and I was at college 9 till 4, and then I worked at McDonald's 4 till midnight. And then I came home, make sure the boys are fed. It was a lot. It was really a lot. And when you hear my story, a lot of people go, well, that makes sense. You'd have chronic illness. But I didn't have so much pain. I didn't have so much this. So I don't want to tell my story to invalidate anyone else's, because all trauma is trauma. Even the most loving parents in the most loving, safe home can be traumatic if it's suffocatingly safe and you feel like you can't get away, and then you develop chronic illness as a means to get away. Or like, yeah, I just really wanted to caveat that my trauma or pain is not worse or bigger than anyone else's.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think what I've realized, I mean, I'm quite lucky in the sense that I look back at my childhood and it feels like relatively like normal, like loving, all of that kind of stuff. But stuff you've been through, like there's certain things in my childhood now that looking at it, that was traumatic for me in that in that body. It's not traumatic for
Yes.
me. If it happened to me now, it wouldn't be traumatic. But that as a little
Yes.
boy, it was
Yes.
really, really difficult, and my nervous system wouldn't have been able to take it at that time. Um,
Exactly.
do you get people who, when they're potentially new clients, who almost, yeah, they say I don't really have like trauma, like is that something they say?
Yeah, and then we have one session and it's all very clear for me and for them. And when they're able to make that click, I call it the reveal stage of these 3 steps: reveal, reconnect, realign. When they reveal, and it's not about re-traumatizing, but it's about, oh, of course, like one client was struggling to conceive, but she had a beautiful, healthy marriage. Her childhood was seemingly normal and there's no trauma, but carrying in her womb was all this fear and all this pain that she's not worthy to be a mother. And she's very critical to herself and very controlling. So the trauma is there. If we have chronic symptoms, we have trauma and pain. I think if, yeah, I would be blunt enough to say that.
That was actually going to be my next question. Is it always like trauma based? But do you think trauma is it's quite like a triggering word? Uh,
Yeah, we could just say pain, inner child pain, emotional past pain that hasn't been validated.
yeah, no, yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I think trauma can be, because people just assume it's like this huge abuse or something like that, but it can be something quite small that then triggered a
Yeah.
certain pattern throughout someone's life, right?
Yeah, society is very traumatizing in general. And some of the internalized beliefs we can get is that we're not good enough, we're not beautiful, we're not strong enough, we're not capable, we're dependent on the structures in place, the patriarchy. And then when we develop chronic illness, that validates a lot of that. Because again, I'm incapable, I'm dependent, I'm invisible.
Mm. How many years did you go? So it was 2016 that you first, so you went a good like 6, 7 years or so, just like trying to look externally for something to heal you without any knowledge of
Right.
trauma and all of that. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And medicated.
Yeah, yeah. I did that
And the
too.
medications came with so many side effects. So then I take medications for those side effects.
God, yeah.
You can see I'm a big money industry. Like when you see it, you can't unsee it. It's so obvious.
Yeah, but it's they basically just gave you the most generic, uncurable diagnoses like IBS, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, ones that don't have any hope, and then also, yeah, a lot of medication. Was this all through the NHS that you were getting this medication?
Yep. And then when I would travel, I would say, can I have 6 months supply? And they were like, yeah, whatever. And then, or if I was abroad, I would buy it out of pocket. A lot of it was antidepressive medicine for IBS. I don't want to say the names of things, but just things that would stop the bloating, stop the symptoms.
Yeah.
Now I'm a healer and a coach. Stopping the symptoms is telling my inner child to shut up and be quiet, and she's not important, and no one cares, and no one wants to hear. So I was stuck in this cycle until I learned how to taper off safely and validate that child and love her and reparent her, because I believe the symptoms are coming up just like a little 3-year-old or 5-year-old, depends how old we were when the pain was there, saying like, this isn't okay, see me, the bloating, the fatigue in the morning. It's like, life isn't good. Like, I'm not enjoying this. This is not fulfilling whatever in our life. And the body just shows that. And when we can see that, our body becomes our friend who's just trying to help us this whole time to take us out of suffering.
Yeah, there's definitely been like a battle, and I see it when, when I have people on the show like this. You've got to almost like try and have a different relationship with your body. For a long time, I was seeing it as the enemy, and it wasn't like it was failing me, and I was so disappointed in it. And now I see it as it's actually something a lot stronger and a lot more powerful than I ever gave it credit for before.
Yeah, so strong. The body is like Mother Earth. Like, earth is within our veins. Like, the ability to create, the ability to heal, the ability to create new life, whether that's a child or like projects that we have, and change things. And I think the fact that we can heal is an absolute. And then the healing process is unlearning every time we were told that we can't and that we're not good enough and all the things, to allow healing to happen. Healing is already happening. We've seen it every time we cut ourselves, and it heals every time we get hungover, and then we heal. Like, we have seen it. We have got the evidential proof, but somewhere along the way we've gone, yeah, but chronic fatigue is different. Chronic is different, but the doctor said. And so that's a process of really inviting ourselves to heal. And that's where the fear of healing can come in. And I work with that a lot with clients. And at first it's like, why would I be scared of healing? I want to heal. Obviously I want to heal. Okay, do you want to heal? But are you afraid of having to go back to work? Right, the story that a lot of people create. But I would have to step up. I would have to have more responsibilities. What if I burn out again? What if I heal, but then this? What if I lose all my friends because when I heal and they're still sick and they don't want to be friends anymore? All this stuff. It's a whole transition, a whole, like, the healing is healing our life.
Yeah, 100%. You when I looked up your story, and you said something, and I won't be quoting it exactly, but it really resonated with me, and it's something I talk about a lot. And it was something about, I think people build up this belief, and I definitely did, that there's something different about me that means I won't recover, and there's something that's like unique about me that no one's figured out yet, and that I need to figure it out before I can heal. And you said something almost exactly like that, and I was like, that is just such an important point that people need to look into. And I always reference it. I went on a Joe Dispenza
Oh,
retreat.
amazing.
Yeah, and like one of his advanced retreats, and I wasn't getting it. I wasn't connecting with it like for pretty much most of the week. And I was thinking, oh, this is just the same thing. Like, I'm not connecting with it. There's something about me that means I can't do it. And he turns around and he said, don't think if you're sitting there right now and this isn't working for you, don't think that you're so special that this doesn't work for you. And it was the way he said it was so lighthearted and so funny. It was just like, it just kind of made me, relieved. And while that wasn't
Yes.
solve that issue in that moment, over the last few years, I have realized that I'm not that special. I'm not that different. I'm there's not something unique that someone's missing. It's just like, I need to connect more with my own healing. Could you talk a little bit about, sorry, I just waffled on a little bit, but could you
No,
talk a
it's
little
so
bit about
humbling.
that? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Everything you just described is remembering that you are a human
Yeah.
and that our parents are humans, and that we're all here running around, or inner children running around, trying our best. So the tough love part is that there's some entitlement there that's but I'm different, and yeah, we're using this word special. I'm special because I can't heal.
Mhm.
When we peel that back, there could be the internalized belief like that I'm not special at all, the total opposite. I'm not unique. I mean, Louise Hay says this best, that just the bottom line for everyone is I'm not good enough. When we heal that and we go, oh yeah, I'm human. Oh yeah, I'm not special because I can't heal. I'm special because I can heal. I'm a born healer. We're all healers. We're all here. So this is a bit out there for some people. We're all here, energetical, spiritual energies, right? And then we choose the exact body, the exact circumstances. We pull in the exact situations to integrate the parts that we don't have yet. So that part, that person who doesn't yet have that I'm special because I'm me, I'm a bright light, I'm me, I'm free, I'm safe, is potentially going to pull in circumstances, events, situations, physical illnesses that we could say test that. But really it's trying to shine a light, it's trying to guide, because then we do the work and we integrate it and then we heal it. And then we've done that particular lesson, we could say. And that could be part of our soul purpose.
How do you, what I'm in the process of doing is like, through going through this healing process, is that I'm getting such an unbelievable confidence in like my body's ability and what that does for me in terms of like my outlook for my overall what's possible for me in my life. It means that I feel like there's so many less limits than there was before. How about you? You've come through this unbelievable transformation, homeless, 200 symptoms, all of this stuff, and you're now on the other side where you've healed that. You're living in Bali, which I think is a great place. What does that do for your like confidence in terms of what's possible for your life?
Yes. So I realized after or during healing chronic symptoms that there's other areas of my life that are very chronic, money being one of them. So then the money work started. Oh, what have I learned? Internalized beliefs about money. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money this, money that. Oh, it's a chronic illness. It's just not a chronic illness as we know it. It's just a different expression of the same stuff. And then in relationships, I was very scared of conflict. I was very scared of upsetting someone. And that came back to my stepdad stuff. So I started to do personal work in other areas of my life, healing in the process, my physical body. And then after healing, let's say we're healed in 2020, I healed in 2020, just as I moved to Bali. The last 3 years, there's no chronic symptoms anymore, but maybe I didn't voice my boundary and I felt violated and a UTI came up. Okay. Integrate, learn the lesson. Maybe again, I'm like carrying on with my life. And in business, this is coming up. My Instagram has grown, doubled in the last few weeks, and my nervous system's going, it might not be safe. Can we be that much? Like, can we take up that much space? Remember what happened when we were younger? I don't know. And even just yesterday, I went to the sauna and the steam room and just was like, okay, you got this. You got this. You can hold this. You're born for this. So I wanted to share all of that to remind everybody that the healing carries on. Like, chronic illness will not be chronic forever.
Yeah.
I'm the living, breathing example of that. And then my partner says something and I revert into like a dysregulated state and the healing continues. Or a client or a follower says, you know, who are you to charge that much? You're not worth that much. And boom, my unworthiness wound comes online. So we keep healing, we keep processing, and life keeps opening up. So yeah, to look at my example of all that working at McDonald's, minimum wage, a lot of poverty. And now I have a very successful business, and money isn't an issue. And I never really believed I would get here. My family, like, we don't have money. Like, I don't come from money. I'm not a person who knows money or villas or swimming pools. Are you kidding me? A guy who's going to come and clean the pool? Like, this is not the life that I grew up in, but it's the life I get to have now. And then soul family, people around me who validate me, who get me, who listen, who want to do fun spiritual things together. And like, I've been yearning for this my whole life, and I'm finally living it. And I don't heal when I finally live it. This is a reframe that a lot of my clients need support with. It's not when I heal, then I'll get the money, then I'll get the business, then I'll move to Bali, then I'll do the thing. We actually do all of that now, and doing that heals us.
Wow, there's a lot of stuff there. I was like, oh my God, I need to remember that because I've got a question there. And that last point that you said though, what's on the tip of my tongue is like super important. When I got the idea, actually in Nusa Lembongan, and I went on a retreat, Nusa Cheningham actually, which is, for those who don't know, it's right next to Bali. And it was just before the pandemic, and I got the idea for this podcast there, and I was like, no, I need to wait until I'm healed. Like, I need to do it when I'm healed because it will be triggering, and people won't relate to it. I'll constantly get questions, which I do all the time. Are you healed? How did you heal? Like, it won't be good for me. And then I remember someone saying on the retreat, no, that's exactly what you need to do. You need to do it whilst you're healing. Like, that's super important. And it's been the best decision that I've made. And it's been like, I hate to think where I would be if I hadn't have made that decision. And I moved to Bali whilst I was in the thick of it. I moved, I've done all of these things whilst I've been healing. And someone else said something to me once, was just like, don't wait for you to heal for your life to be amazing, or something to that effect. Like, you can enjoy your life now whilst you heal. And no,
Yes.
I'm still not in the position where I want to be, but I'm okay with that, and I'm actually enjoying the process, and I'm enjoying my life in the meantime. In 2014, 2015, I could not say that. I was going through hell. I hated everything that was going on. And so, yeah, is that kind of what you were saying when
Yes, I'm
yeah,
really glad you went into this, because unknowingly creating your podcast, for me it was my YouTube channel, which, if anyone listening, you can still go there. I'm sick on my YouTube channel. You'll see me, like, I look very sick.
yeah,
But in doing that, there is a part of us stepping into purpose and service. And in yogic philosophy, karmic service, giving back, is very healing. It's a path of healing. It's Mother Teresa healing, right? It's just give back, and speak up, and say the thing, and do the thing, and be seen, and use our voice. And we didn't know that we were healing ourselves when I hit record on my camera, and it took me 2 weeks to film a 20-minute video and edit it, because that's a lot of questions I get. Well, how do you do it if you're so sick?
mm,
And what I hear from that is more invalidation. Like, if you're going to invalidate me, I'm not going to respond. So then
yeah.
we get to practice our boundaries as well.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I look at YouTube comments, and you can see the people that are further on in their healing process than others, because the people that aren't, and these aren't bad people, but they're looking for the negative that they can find. For example, you talked about earning money and that your business is going well, and I know, and just so you know, like, I think that's amazing. I think if you're able to help people heal, you should be rewarded for that, that you're offering an invaluable service. Whereas you will get people that will be like, oh, this is an episode that's just trying to sell, Sarah's service to us, and all of that kind of stuff. And it's just, I actually got quite triggered by a lot of those comments at the beginning. I'm like, I'm doing all this stuff like off my own back. And then, seeing these comments, and now I don't, I just see it, unfortunately for them, they're at that stage in their healing process where
Yes.
they just need to take the positives out of it, rather than looking for who's trying to swindle me over, who's trying to
Right.
take money from me. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I was there. I was one of them. And when somebody comes to me, immediately jumping to the big 6-month program that I offer, which is my signature program, like my 10 years of my life, if not my whole life, has gone into this program. It's a premium price. It's a lot of live access with me. When they jump to that and then complain about the price, I have compassion, but I'm also thinking, okay, something I'm doing is not clear, because there are steps before we get to something like that. I invested $5,000 in my first coach, but that was not when I was in a different stage of my healing, we could say. I started with a $10 book from Louise Hay. If I couldn't afford the $10 book from Louise Hay, it was her YouTube audio free version of the book. That's for free. It was podcast. It was free. EFT tapping. Every year they do a free summit, and I couldn't watch the whole thing because I was sick. But if I could do a little bit, just a little bit. And this is where my phrase came in, to any degree, just to any degree. So maybe a premium coaching program is not where we're at right now, but maybe a self-paced brain rewiring courses, or yoga for $10, or I don't know how much a yoga class is. And when the teacher says, bend your leg all the way around here, you say, you know what? That's not in alignment for me to be all bendy like that. I'm going to sit here and love myself and not criticize. That is the work. That's the work I do in my premium program. But you can do it in the park. Go and do Qigong in the park and be seen. That will heal your nervous system. Like there's so much. There's so much. Then one last thing I want to say on this is that the clients I tend to attract are women like me on this path to becoming a healer and a coach and a voice for others and a community holder. So that's why I also offer online healing business as a separate program. So I help women heal, and then I help them sort out their business and heal all the fears and wounds in their voice. Because you might want to heal so you can be a better mom or a dad, or you might want to heal so that you can XYZ fill in the blank. But my specific area is I help you heal because your part of your purpose is to help the world heal and help others heal.
And that's so powerful, to be able to get people, to be able to spread this kind of message to more and more people, for sure. Like you said something then that got me. That's it. I think what you said there, like if someone's listening to this right now and they're not at their stage in their process where they could get all of the value from a premium course, they need to spend the time. Well, in my opinion, I don't like to say things like they should or should. It would be beneficial. Yeah, it'd be beneficial for them, in my opinion, to consistently try to open their mind through learning different things, reading different things, listening, and get themselves into a position where if they are spending that level of money, they're in a position where they can actually hear what's being said. I've spent a lot of money throughout this process of probably spending money on things that I wasn't ready for, and that I wouldn't get the true value of. And it sounds like I don't know. I don't know if you said this earlier. It's almost like if you come across the wrong person that wants to work with you, do you still work with them? It sounds like almost like you only want to work with the people that you want to work with, right?
Yeah, I have a full body yes process, and that's their full body yes to work with me, and I'm a full body yes to work with them.
Yeah.
And somebody once asked me, like, and especially family and people at the beginning of my process, they were like, but what if someone wants to work with you, but they don't believe in the metaphysical courses of illness? They don't believe in this. And I say, oh, well, then they're not a full body yes, and that's fine. So I'm okay with rejection. This is a core thing throughout my life, learning how to be okay with rejection and learning how to be okay when I reject them. So my application process would reject somebody if we're not a good fit, and that's good for them and that's good for me.
Yeah.
When we're a good fit for each other, the sessions will take care of themselves. And they'll get all the healing that they need. For somebody who, isn't at the, see, here's the thing with money as well. It's not that we don't have it and that we can't afford it. The reframe I use is that I'm not right now, I'm not in that area of resourcefulness or openness to invest in myself at that level. And I felt like that even now when there's very expensive 10,000, 20,000 crazy weekend workshops. I'm like, I don't say I can't afford it, because that's quite limiting. I say I'm not there yet. I'm not resourceful in that way yet. Maybe one day. The other thing is that for people listening, when there's like a group program or like a premium service, everything else, the podcast, the free stuff, the Instagram content, that's not different to the premium program. It's just snippets of it. And then the premium program, what you're really paying for, and what I paid for when I invested and got the support I need, is you're being held, you're being seen, you're being safe, you're being seen by other people who validate you, which is very healing. And you are investing in yourself. You are saying, I believe I can heal. And this is the proof, the action that backs that up. And sometimes I've had clients heal from 20%, you know, if we're going to put a percent on it, 20% sick healed to like 80%, just from investing, just from saying, I'm worth that much, I matter. And then for someone else, it's saying, I'm commit to 10-minute meditation every day, and they do it. And that tells their inner child and their body, I'm worth it. I'm, you know, in integrity. I look after myself. And you can heal without my program. Of course, you can heal without Louise Hay. You can heal without yoga. You can heal in other ways, but it's all the same thing. As long as we're reconnecting to ourselves, it doesn't matter like who the teacher is or how it looks.
Yeah. I mean, from doing this podcast, I know that you can heal in so many different ways. There are so many people who I've interviewed who wouldn't be right for your course at all. And I personally, I'm probably not right for it as well, just because I think there's still limiting beliefs in certain areas. Maybe I can get there. I don't know. Maybe I think there's just different modalities for different people. What would you be your advice to someone who has a real struggle with money at the moment? And because there's a lot of people and they meant to talk about money, what would be your advice to them of like free or like not expensive things that they could do right now to help them start changing their brain?
Well, right now, and if you're listening while my free training is still available, that's 9 hours of content. And while I will at the end of the content say, if you would like to go deeper, this is the information to my course, I'm not being salesy. That's 9 hours of my heart and soul. And that's an amazing place to start with core beliefs, needs within symptoms, how to heal our life, and how to reparent and process anger and grief and fear. Then aside from that, this is I'm going to say, out of all the hundreds of things, I'm going to say, commit to waking up around sunrise. That's free. That's free, and it will take everything you've got. It took everything I've got. It was painful. It was horrible. All the symptoms flared up, the IBS, the headaches. But you know what? When I sat there at 6 a.m., watched the sun came up and said, I'm worthy of this beauty. I don't have to hide from the world and cocoon myself and stay in bed all day. I'm worthy of this. That started to rewire myself for the life that I have today, where I wake up with ease, where I wake up for sunrise joyfully.
Amazing. I might start. I currently wake up at like I'm always like playing around with my wake up times. Maybe I'll do. I used to wake up at sunrise, but right now I'm a little bit later, so maybe that'll take.
I mean, there's a whole philosophy why, which I won't go into, the nature of the cycles and the energies and Ayurveda. But for now, just leave it with being worthy to seize the day and not let it go to waste.
I'm conscious of time, so I've just got a couple more questions for you. Something just we haven't really touched upon is like relationships in your life, because you've changed so much. So much has changed for you. Have you got any relationships from like friends or family? Well, I guess not necessarily. Well, friends and family that you've managed to keep and maintain throughout that process, or has the change been that like dramatic that you don't have contact with a lot of these people? Like, has there been any constants?
Yeah, I love that question. Friends from school and back home who are also dealing with chronic symptoms, and were not available or like looking in the direction that I was going in. We couldn't keep a friendship because they found my work to invalidate their situation. And I also had a lot to learn in how to say you can heal without offending someone. But also I had to learn that that's not my problem if I offend someone. But family members have come along. There had to be periods of estrangement for me to heal, and for them also to heal their stuff, even if it didn't look like the way I was doing it. And now I no longer need my mother to be a different. I no longer need her to pay for what she did. I no longer need my stepdad to like eradicate the past and make it not happen. It happened. It all happened. And now when I go home, the energy that I carry with me, even my shoulders go back as I'm even remembering like how I walk into my family home. I'm not walking in like this. If you're watching video, you'll see me, I'm hunched over. I'm not walking in like scared, frightened little child. I'm walking in like there's a standard to speak with me. And if you, because I can't change that, if you revert to these certain ways, let's say shouting at me, scaring me, abusing me, like I'm not available. So then I leave. But that doesn't always have to mean we end all contact. It can just mean that I will say, okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable in this conversation because you're raising your voice. So I'm going to go in the other room and we can carry on. At Christmas time, for example, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of, okay, I need to take a pause from this and come back. And living in Bali, it means we can have a phone call where we can keep things like on the whole, regulated. And I'm no longer looking for them to do my job, which is reparent me. So our dynamic has shifted where I almost see them more like a friend than a parent. And I don't need them financially. I don't need them physically. I don't need them to like say, come and save me. So and then everyone else in my life is brand new and on the same path as me, or have walked very similar circumstances to me.
Amazing. And Bali's very good for that. Yeah, I guess those kinds of people healing from trauma. Finally, and I ask this to everyone because there's such wisdom there from the people I speak to. Most people watching this will be at their like darkest hour, or a lot of people will be, and really struggling with that belief that they can get better and they can get through this. From someone like you who's been through the the worst of times and managed to be where you are right now, that has to give someone so much hope and inspiration. It does for me, sitting here right now. But what would be your advice to someone like that right now, really struggling with that belief, really struggling to move forward? What would be your advice to them?
Yeah, and hearing you, I'm getting emotional because I know that place. And even when my dad died in January, the same things come up. Like, I cannot survive this. I cannot go through this. I'm not strong enough. And what I want to say to that is that is also the healing. That is not wrong. And you don't have to force yourself to come out of that. And that the experience of that rock bottom is the start, the happening, the healing already happening. I know that that's hard to hear when you're in it, because we want it to be over already and we want to speed up that process. But knowing, oh, I'm in rock bottom, like this is the worst ever situation of my life. The flip side of that is that this is the proof that I'm already healing. Rock bottom is the healing.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. I could honestly sit here for another hour and talk to you about all this stuff that we talked about. I feel like you're doing really important work for people, and yeah, I'm so happy that you came on and were able to share your story. Luckily we're going to be releasing this episode really quickly because I've been really lazy at recording episodes recently, so yeah, I'm really excited to see the response. If people want to reach out to you, if they want to do the free course that you were talking about, how would they go and do that?
Yeah, my Instagram is I am Sarah Harvey, so you can find me there. And the free training is at the link in my bio.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, I'm so excited to get this out there.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the space to use my voice, which is something I'll probably continue to hear for the rest of my life.